Arteta's perfect summer transfer window. Today we're going to do some analysis on the Arsenal squad. Who should be sold, who should be brought in, and what do Arsenal need to do to further close the gap to Manchester City. Of course, Arsenal, brilliant season in the Premier League. Finished off the campaign in second position with a whopping 84 points. 5 points behind treble winners Manchester City. There is work to be done with the Arsenal squad, but they're in a great position so far. There isn't like a major overhaul needed like at Manchester United, should we say, or Chelsea that need to sign loads of players and sell more players, but it's more that Arsenal just need to improve certain areas. I think when we're looking at Arsenal's squad, there are holes for me. I think in central midfield, a number 8 could be brought in, potentially a right winger or an auxiliary and attacker that can play attacking midfield, wide left, wide right as a striker as well. But also I think improvements in defence are needed when Arsenal don't have their first choice back four, William Saliba, Ben White, Zinchenko and of course Gabriel. They look a lot poorer than they do with that first 11. But anyway guys, let's dive into the transfer analysis. Arsenal squad is quality as we mentioned before, but there's players in the squad that need to be moved on. I'm talking the likes of Lokonga, Nuno Tavares, Pablo Mari, Cedric Suarez and Nicolas Pepe. A number of those players are coming back from short-term loans, but there's still enough money that you could bring into the Arsenal squad, so combine selling those 5 players for around 30 million. That does involve letting Nicolas Pepe go on a free transfer. He's probably been the worst bit of business that Edu's done as DOF, but there's been some brilliant business. You know, signing Martin Odegaard, for example, cracking bit of business. So those players are out, which opens up us being able to spend around £30 million. We're going to go through the squad and we're going to rework how it kind of appears and what we want to do. So I think there's certain ideas that I like with this Arsenal squad because there's so many players that are quite versatile that could play multiple roles. So changing their position is something I want to talk about today as well. In goal, I wouldn't change anything. I think Ramsdale's got the ability on the ball, the command, the presence to be Arsenal's keeper for a number of years to come. So I think that's a position that Arsenal don't need to address. But let's move on to the fullback position because I think there's a few things that Arsenal could do in these areas that could really improve things. The first bit of transfer news I want to talk about is at right fullback. I think Arsenal potentially need to bring someone into that position. When Ben White doesn't play, it's a massive drop down. When you're looking at Tomiyasu, I think he's a fantastic player, and yes, I'd keep him for another season, but this season is make or break. If he can't stay fit this season, then Arsenal need to get rid of him. But what I would actually do with someone like Tomiyasu is I'd move him to that kind of auxiliary defender that he could come in at centre half, could come in at left back, could come in at right back in certain games. But I think bringing someone into that position, into the right back role, is really important. Rob Holding will stay in the squad for argument's sake. Great impact off the bench when Arsenal need to go for a back 5 and defend, but maybe not the starter. Really good member around the squad, but we're going to remove him out right now to sign our first player. I think the right back position is an interesting one. Arsenal recently have been linked with Castagna from Leicester City. Could get him at a cut price point, which I quite like. I like Castagna. I think he's a good player in an attacking sense. Also, he's a good defender. Won the most tackles for Leicester City in the Premier League this season. Also can play left back, can play right back. But Arsenal playing for the future. Second youngest team in the Premier League this season behind Southampton. You've got to continue that idea and sign Fresneda from Real Valladolid. The Spanish under-21 international has got massive potential. What I like about him as a footballer is he's very much a ball player. Someone that looks very comfortable in those moments. And I think with Arsenal's squad, they need to be signing more of these types of players. You know, players that are super confident on the ball, super, good at getting on, in possession and controlling things. Some of his good performances this season have come as well in some of the massive games. He had a great game against Vinicius Jr. of Real Madrid, winning 8 of his 10 tackles. The calibre is there, the quality is there. You can see by his heat map, he inverts slightly, which is also needed for a right back in Mikel Arteta's team. And when you're looking at Vinicius Jr. getting a rating of 6.2 and completing just 2 of his 9 dribbles, you've got a player that could really be a top-level defender, but also has the quality in possession. Think the Spanish Aaron Wan-Bissaka that can actually play out of the back. So that'd be the first signing that we'd look to bring in for around 13 million. We're going to cover that by the 30 million that we brought in from selling the 5 players I mentioned previously. Big improvement on the Arsenal squad. Young, talented Spanish defender. Massive value there that would add real quality and depth in the future for Arsenal. So let's move on to maybe the centre-back position. I think this is another area that Arsenal could go out and buy, a player that's capable of playing full-back and centre-back. One of the ones that really stand out for me is Mohamed Simical. I'm a big fan of the Frenchman. I think he's got real quality when not only defending 1v1 in the channels, as Arsenal defenders have to do that, but he's also very capable at carrying the ball out of defence, driving into midfield. This season for RB Leipzig, he's played a number of different roles, either on the right side of a back three or alternatively as an attacking wing-back. I think that showcases his ability as a footballer, that he can play two of those different roles. And I think long-term, when you're building squads out, you need to think that you don't know whether you're going to play a back four or a back five in 3 to 4 years' time. So you're signing a 23-year-old, you need to consider whether he can play these multitude of positions and roles for your team. And he's done that this season for Leipzig, be it playing as in that wing-back position or outside centre-back position. I really like him as an overlapping centre-back, and I think that's kind of a little bit of a role that we kind of see Ben White play in a sense when Arsenal do create that back three in possession, that he does get forward. Simican got a wonderful assist in this game against Borussia Dortmund. So just a player that I think would add a great sort of depth to the Arsenal squad. Quality, can play right back as well, can play centre back, and that really steps up the Arsenal second choice defence. Going from William Saliba to Simicon, it's a drop-off, but it's not that much of a drop-off. And around £30 million from RB Leipzig could be a really good investment for the future. We're not going to make our money now. We're going to tell you later on how we're going to generate that transfer revenue to bring Simicon to Arsenal. But let's move on to left-back. Left-back has been revolutionised by Zinchenko for Arsenal, inverting, getting into that defensive midfield position, allowing Granit Xhaka to move into number 10, and Arsenal creating a 3-2-5 attacking structure. I love Zinchenko, but when there's a player of Joao Cancelo's quality on the market, you've got to go out and buy him. And that being said, selling Kieran Tierney to Newcastle for £25 million on the way out, and signing someone like Joao Cancelo for around £40 million. Arsenal are offering 35, City want 42. We're meeting in the middle. Would be a humongous upgrade in terms of depth. You're going from a player in Kieran Tierney that's more of a traditional wing-back, likes to stay wide, not massively comfortable in the central positions. I think he's got a lot better, but having someone of Zinchenko's quality, but also Cancelo's quality, that left-hand side is absolutely brilliant. Not only that, you could play Cancelo as a right-back at times. Playing Zinchenko and Cancelo would give you so much ball playing out of the back. But I think this kind of changes the squad. This is what we're kind of talking about right now. That ultimately, if Cancelo comes in, he is probably number one choice. His quality is absolutely fantastic. You've got to remember, 2 seasons ago when he was Premier League Defender of the Year, only Trent Alexander-Arnold had more shot-creating actions. The impact he has in the final third, in the inside channels, would give Arsenal so much. But him being signed for around 40 million, what you could do with Zinchenko is, again, bring Tomiyasu in as the backup left-back. So he's playing as the backup left-back. Zinchenko moves into a midfield role. I think he'd be brilliant in Arsenal's, defensive midfield position. What that means is at times you'd have Cancelo in that attacking inside left position. Other times you'd have Zinchenko. Other times Zinchenko would be deep in build-up and Cancelo high, or Cancelo deep in build-up, Zinchenko high. I think that'd be really good for the Arsenal squad. Having someone of Zinchenko's quality and Cancelo's quality on this left-hand side, you could have the fluidity that we see on the right-hand side with Ben White, Odegaard and Saka. I think the signing would be very good, and subsidising that by selling Kieran Tierney to Newcastle for around 25 million, buying Cancelo for 40 is great business for me. But let's move up the pitch. I think there's an obvious position that needs to be recruited for. That is in central defensive midfield or as the free number 8. Granit Xhaka has been brilliant. Best goal scoring season of his career at Arsenal. 41% of his goals coming this season. The role was perfect for him, this kind of deep line player that moves into an attacking sense when Arsenal win the ball. There needs to be some money spent here, and this is going to be the majority of the budget is going to be spent on Declan Rice, around £90 million. Granit Xhaka moving to Bayer Leverkusen for £13 million. That has already been agreed. So Xhaka goes out. Declan Rice comes in, and you've already got a massive upgrade in terms of ball-playing central midfielders that can play that attacking role. As we previously spoke about, Rice, he's really improved his offensive play. Scored a great goal end of the season against Leeds, which I like. It was a Granit Xhaka goal. Xhaka arriving at that back post as a target. That's what Declan Rice can do. But it also gives us that fluidity, and that was the big thing we were talking about previously. Squad players that can play multiple roles within the system, but different starting positions. Because what we could see is Declan Rice playing as the 6, Zinchenko as the 8. We could see Partey as the 8, Declan Rice as the 6. I think there's a lot of quality in the Arsenal squad to really change things, but primarily coming in as the 8 at the start, but Declan Rice eventually moving into that number 6 position and controlling the tempo for Arsenal. It's a signing that's needed. You're buying one of the most complete English central midfielders on the market for 90 million. Yes, it's expensive, but I think it massively upgrades what Arsenal want to do. I think someone like Caicedo is a great option as well, but I just feel for Arsenal, Declan Rice is the right player for them. So it's a lot of money going out. We're only getting £13 million for Xhaka. We're spending 90 million, so we need to balance the books. One position that Arsenal got quite a lot of quality in is in that kind of number 9 position. You're talking Leandro Trossard can play that role, Martinelli can play that role, obviously Gabriel Jesus is number 1, and Nketiah can play there, but also Flo Balogun at Stade Reims this season has been absolutely brilliant. I would love to see what Balogun can do for Arsenal. I think he's got the quality. I like his ability on the ball. I like his hold-up play. He can obviously finish very, very well off both feet. 21 goals in Ligue 1 this season. A sensational campaign, a really good loan move from the American international. When you're looking at the top players in Ligue 1, only Jonathan David, Lacazette and Kylian Mbappe scored more goals. He has got the potential to go really, really far. Arsenal Academy, I would really consider keeping him. Arsenal have been linked with Montpellier forward Wahi as well in recent weeks. I think he's more of a Nketiah type forward, more of a player that's going to play on the last line than a Balogun that could drop off and be in a deep lying forward. I do like Balogun. I'd like to see him continue at Arsenal, but if we're talking balancing the books right now, selling Balogun for around £35 million, that's the price tag that Arsenal have given him. Could be a great bit of business just to get some money. Put a buyback in there as well. A £50 million buyback like Manchester City do with their young stars. You solve both problems. I think Balogun needs another season playing as the number 1 striker at another club before coming into Arsenal. Maybe selling him, allowing him to take a step away and then bringing him back in 2 to 3 years' time when Gabriel Jesus is coming to the back end of his career would be good business. So Balogun out for 35 million is what we're going to go with. Eddie Nketiah as well. I just don't think he quite suits Arsenal. Like him as a forward, but I think he'd do a lot better playing as an advanced forward in another team, not a deep lying forward. So I feel like Arsenal, selling Nketiah and Balogun for a combined £50 million, and then going to Ajax and buying one of the most, mobile, tactically intelligent, goal-scoring forwards in Mohamed Kudus. Kudus would be good for Arsenal because, as I mentioned before, can facilitate a lot of roles. Can play number 10, can play on the left, can play on the right to good effect. I like him as a false 9 as well. I think he'd give Arsenal a lot. When a player of his quality is available on the market, I think you've got to go. Not only that, is he's played number 8 for Ajax at times, and again would play that role for Arsenal. One of his real good qualities is arriving late into the penalty area and finishing off moves, something that is required of Arsenal's number 8 in the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 shape. I think it would just complete Arsenal's squad. It gives such depth and quality. I think those are the kind of main signings I'd look to bring in. 5 signings: Declan Rice, of course, Cancelo, Kudus, Simicon and Fresneda. But looking at someone like Xavi Simons as well to come in and improve the attacking side, you're getting a player of immense quality, immense quality in possession of the football that could play in a plethora of positions for Arsenal. Would be good. But I do want to see Fabio Vieira have one more season. I like Fabio Vieira. I'm a fan of Fabio Vieira. Not played enough football for me. I'd like to see him play more, either as the Saka backup or the number 10 backup. Getting a bit more minutes will be in there. But anyway, guys, we've gone through the Arsenal squad in terms of positions. We've sold Balogun for 35 million, Tierney for 25, Eddie Nketiah for 15. We've got Xhaka going for 13, Nuno Tavares for 7, Pablo Mari for 5, Cedric Suarez for 3 million, and unfortunately Nicolas Pepe for nothing. That is getting our sales up to 118 million, and we are spending some cash. We're spending around 218 million on Declan Rice for 90, Cancelo for 45, Kudus for 40, Simicon for 30, and Fresneda for 13, which takes our net spend to bang on 100 million. I think that's pretty fair, guys. Get into the comments below. How much would you spend for Arsenal this summer? Who would you sign? Do you think my suggestions have been good? And is there any other players that you would sell? I've been Statman Dave. Subscribe if you're new. We'll see you very soon.